I'm Sienna. I'm the kid.
I'm Sarah. I'm the mom.
This is Queer Kid Straight Mom.
Let's talk. Welcome back to Queer Kid Straight Mom. We're going to keep this episode pretty short and sweet because Sienna and I are both slammed this week. We just wanted to talk a little bit about passports. So one of the first things that Trump did in his presidency, right? It was pretty quick.
One of his flurry of executive orders in January.
Yeah. He put out an executive order saying that you can't get issued a passport with a gender marker that is different than your sex at birth, and that X gender markers on passports would not be recognized. A lower court filed an injunction against that executive order, but the Supreme Court just overruled that. So we just want to talk a little bit about what that means if you are a transgender person who has a passport that does not match your sex at birth or has an X marker on it.
Like me.
Like Sienna. What have you found out, Sienna?
Okay, so there are a couple of questions that the State Department very helpfully is actually not really giving any clear answers about. So if you want answers on those questions, so do I. No one has them. That's probably part of the strategy, is just to keep people confused. But what we don't know is if you are intersex and you don't have consistent documentation about your sex at birth, no one really knows how that's getting processed. As far as I can tell, no one's been able to really get any straight answer out of how that lack of documentation will be processed when ascertaining sex assigned at birth. And then the other thing that no one's really entirely clear on is, as of now, passports that have an X gender marker or a gender marker different from what was assigned at birth are still valid. You can still travel with them. They're still valid forms of ID. What the State Department website very helpfully says is, and I quote, this is an update that they made to their website on November 13th. They updated the travel webpage FAQ section to say, to answer the question, is my passport still valid if I have an X marker on it or if it lists a sex other than my sex at birth? A passport is valid for travel until its date of expiration, until you replace it, or until we invalidate it under federal regulations. Obviously, the key there being until we've invalidated under federal regulations. So that suggests that they're at the very least leaving the door open to potentially invalidating those passports.
So as of now, it's okay. It's not like you're going to get stopped for having an invalid passport.
Yes, which is good because I know back in January, people were really not sure what the situation was going to be. Like if you would no longer be able to use your passport, say, as identification on a flight. There have been a couple of anecdotal reports of people having some trouble either with their documents not matching, right? Like, for instance, my driver's license says female on it because Montana doesn't offer an X marker, and then my passport says X. And so you can imagine a situation where those documents conflicting with each other potentially causes some problems, or having some trouble with their previous documents getting damaged in the mail and having some trouble getting replacements. But as of now, yes, you should be able to travel with no problems.
So if anybody tries to tell you that it's not valid, they're wrong.
They're incorrect. You should document the incident as best as you can. That's, videoing it, if it is taking down badge numbers, whatever it may be, and then report it. I would say probably to an organization like the ACLU, has been working really hard to make sure trans Americans' rights are being upheld as this kind of situation makes its way through the courts. But yes, you absolutely still have the right to travel and to use your updated passport for travel currently. Again, it kind of seems like they're angling to change that, but as of now, they have not.
If you are a transgender woman and you're renewing your passport, but you were assigned male at birth, do you have to change it when you renew your passport?
Yes. So what this order is saying is that they will not be issuing any more passports that are up to date with the correct gender, which is absolutely nonsensical, because what is the purpose of an identifying document that just causes confusion, right? If someone presents as a woman, passes as a woman, and then their ID is saying that they're a male, what's the point of that?
Yeah. Culture wars, owning the libs.
Yeah, it just seems like, from a pragmatic perspective, it just causes so much more confusion to anyone who actually has to deal with a passport. But I digress.
So that happened with the model and actress Hunter Schafer, right?
Mm-hmm.
She ordered a passport renewal
Mhm.
and marked female, and it came back to her marked male.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So if you currently have an updated gender marker and you're not okay with having the incorrect marker on your passport, or you're worried that it would cause, like, that it could put you in danger, currently your best option is to just not get an updated passport, which is obviously not a tenable long term solution for reasons of we're required to update our passports. But hopefully, I wouldn't put a ton of stock in the Supreme Court overturning the executive order, but hopefully that's something that in 3 years, when, knock on wood, there's not a Republican in office, something that'll get overturned. So that might just be your best option, is, unless something shocking happens with the Supreme Court, just like hang on to your old passport and wait until you can get an updated gender marker again. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do personally, because I just got married over the summer and we want to update our names to be hyphenated. But obviously, if I get a new passport, it will not have the correct gender marker on it. So I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not. But it is worth noting that, I'm in a situation where it doesn't really ultimately cause that much harm to me if my passport says female. Like, the harm is really just being like, I don't like that. But again, there are people that could be put in serious danger from having an incorrect gender marker. And so I would definitely advise everyone to think about whether that's the case for you and just kind of balance those trade-offs.
Yeah, which isn't an ideal scenario. But here we are in big picture, not an ideal scenario.
And on that note, I think a lot of people probably would look at this and be like, well, why, like, ultimately, again, why does it really matter? Isn't it just a matter of personal comfort? And again, no, that's not the case, right? As a lot of trans people will know, being outed as trans when you are someone who passes as cisgender can put you in a lot of danger.
Especially because you would be using that passport theoretically traveling in countries that are very hostile to trans people.
Right. I mean, this is part of the conversation back over the summer with the Algerian boxer, right? Is that you are not just like lying about this woman, and that's like rude and inappropriate. You are potentially putting her in life-threatening danger because she comes from a country where trans people are not safe, right? And so a gender marker that is incorrect automatically is going to out every single trans person in every interaction where they have to use that documentation with our Customs and Border Patrol, with other countries' border control, potentially in situations with the police, who are often not very friendly towards trans people. Every single employer is probably going to see that. So it really, again, can put people in a really dangerous situation. It's not just a matter of like personal comfort or, personal pride or something like that. It's a matter of people's life and death. And to see it being treated so flippantly is really disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, in the meantime, they're really, I guess, once the Supreme Court has ruled that way, like, there's not, unless there were legislation trying to change that, which there's no appetite for that right now. So that is where that stands. But yes, be aware that if you do already have that passport, that is still good, at least for now. And so don't get bullied into being told it's not.
Mm-hmm.
One, I guess, good piece of, I mean, everything that happens these days is like framed in such a way that like good news is only good news and that something really bad didn't happen. But the Supreme Court did decline to take Kim Davis's case trying to overturn gay marriage. So we do have that. At least they do not seem interested in opening that door.
I mean, it would just be such an absolute headache for everybody, right? That all of a sudden now you have to say, okay, so do we invalidate all of the same-sex marriages that already happened, or do we just stop like allowing new ones to happen? And of course, it's not like, overturning Obergefell would mean that gay marriage is just automatically illegal across the country, right? What we had before Obergefell was just a nonsensical patchwork of it's legal in some states and not others, and some states have civil union laws and some states don't, and blah, blah, blah. And that was actually what led to Obergefell, right? Is that we had all of these couples who got married in one state, but then weren't able to reap the benefits of being married in another state, right? Not being able to have access to a child that only legally belonged to your spouse, not being able to, see your spouse while they were in the hospital, not being able to be listed as spouses on your spouse's headstone. Like, these were the situations that Obergefell was dealing with. So you can really see why there's not a ton of appetite for creating that just absolute mess of a situation.
If nothing else, they probably all had people in their ear saying, nobody wants to be inconvenienced to this level.
Right. I would point out, though, that I think this is something that a lot of queer activists have been saying for a long time, is the risk of treating gay marriage being legal as sort of the holy grail for queer liberation is problematic because, as we can see, gay marriage probably not at huge risk right now. And yet queer rights are still being rolled back in a lot of other ways, and the country is becoming a less safe environment for queer people. So that one right shouldn't be sort of the only yardstick that we use to measure whether progress is being made, because it's not. We're going backwards.
Yeah. And frankly, I mean, even for married couples, like, okay, so, we don't have to worry, at least now, about the legality of our marriage, but like, we still feel less safe in public appearing as a couple.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is the environment that we're in right now. And frankly, people who are homophobic are still finding ways to try to rob joy from married couples or couples getting married. Yeah. All of these things, all of these questions and rights and like all the transphobic rhetoric, all of this stuff is creating just an atmosphere that is not healthy for anybody. I mean, the last thing that people with sort of non-critical thinking, antiquated ideas need is people validating them. And that is kind of what this administration seems to be all about, validating sort of the laziest, most fundamentalist version of everything. Hopefully, we'll all make it through. So that was short. If you have any specific questions, we will definitely try to do what we can to find people that might be able to answer anything more specific. But that's what we know at this time. We're going to try to have a little more fun on our next episode. We'll try to watch some more gay Christmas movies and do another episode like we did last year, talking about what's good and what's bad but fun and what's just bad and not fun out there. I saw a rumor about a lesbian firefighter Christmas movie. I don't know where or when that's coming out, but that sounds like it could be any of the things that I just said, potentially. So we are going to scout out that scene and tell you early in the season. So if you are looking for whatever of those things you're looking for in a Christmas movie, we can give you some guidance. We hope everybody has a really good Thanksgiving and you have friends or family or both to share it with. We'll catch you next time. Bye. If you found this episode interesting, informative, amusing, please review and follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. Getting those reviews and follows really helps us show up more in the algorithm and be able to reach more people to help them. You can find us on social media, Instagram and Threads at queerkid.straightmom, Blue Sky at qksm.bsky.social, and Facebook at queerkidstraightmom. We are no longer on Twitter.